So, you've decided to bite the bullet. You finally decided to take part in SvS. You finally decided to push for wings. That's awesome. And we're going to be telling you some of the things that you need to do to get ready for your big occasion. Hi, and welcome to Red Evony. I am Akayasha. You can call me Aka. And here we're going to be telling you how to prepare for SvS and wings. Now that you've decided to take part in SvS and push for wings, naturally, you'd have to prepare for that. You'd have to get yourself ready for that. And the things that you need to do are not something crazy like, say, doing 100 push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and running every day. No, nothing crazy like that. The things that you need to do are actually pretty simple and straightforward. And to help us make sure that we are covering all our bases, we've broken those things down into the following categories. So you have the things that you need to do for attacking, for defending, then you need items, and you need information. Getting yourself ready in all these four categories are quite important for you to prepare for SvS. So let's start going through them. Naturally, when it comes to SvS and trying to get wings, you're going to be doing some attacking. You're going to be looking for targets. You're going to be trying to get points. So, one of the first things that you need to do is to make sure that you've got your main attacking general ready for action. For most people, that would be your range general, but it could be any of your generals that is your strongest general. You need to look for simple stuff that you can do to touch up your general and make sure that they are as strong as they possibly can be. Now, those could be things as simple as doing some work on some refining, raising the general's level, or even something as simple as getting them to put on a freaking shirt. I mean, seriously, what's wrong with this dude? Anyway, there are a number of simple things that you can do with the stuff that you have right now to buff up your general a bit, just to make sure that they are ready for SvS and to help you get wings. And the key point here is simple things, because we are looking at a short time frame for you to take part in SvS. So it's not going to be something long term like getting new Civ gear and doing major upgrades. No. We're looking at short-term things that you can do to buff up your general and make sure that they're good to go. The next thing that you need to focus on when you're preparing for SvS is touching up your buffs. You'd want to try to get any little increases in your attacking buffs that you can. That could be something as simple as working on your Monarch gear, trying to push for the next level, or doing some research that you haven't finished up yet, just to make sure that you have everything that you need ready. You're looking for small increases in buffs that you can do quickly just to give you an extra edge. Then, most importantly, when it comes to attacking, is that you want to work on your March presets. You want to make sure that for your attacking general, you have a preset set up ready to go that you'll be using for attacking. No, I don't want to hear anything like, oh, Aka, but I'll do it when the time comes. No, get it done now. Set up your March preset for your attacking general and your attacking troops. Make sure that is perfect and is ready to go, because that is going to save you when you're doing attacking and you need to be quick. It is very important. If you don't have a March preset set up now, check out my video on simplified March presets. That will get you sorted out right and quick. Okay, so that's it for attacking. The next thing that we want to look at is defending. And as you would expect, sometimes in SvS, you will need to take a hit. You might not plan on doing it like that, but it happens. So to prepare for defense, one thing that you need to make sure that you do is work on your wall general. Again, in a similar way as we said before for your attacking general, What you're looking to do here are small improvements. Okay? You're looking to touch up your general just to make sure that they're as strong as they possibly can be before you get into SVS. So that might be things like working on refines, working on specialties, working on ascension. Of course, if your general is fully maxed out and there's not much else that you can do right now, then that's perfectly fine. The next thing that you'd want to work on, again, are things like your buffs. You'd want to increase your defensive buffs, whether through research or monarch gear or some other kind of buffs. But for defending particularly, you'd want to work on increasing your debuffs. So you'd want to make sure that whatever improvements to your debuffs that you can do, that you get it done in time. If you have gear that you haven't crafted yet, you want to make sure that you craft that gear. If you have sub-generals that you haven't fitted out yet, put them in your subs and make sure that they're ready to go. If you have debuff research that you need to do, make sure that you get that done and everything is good and ready to go by the time SVS comes around. Then, one other additional thing that you need to do when defending, and this does not just relate to SVS alone, is that you'd want to make sure that you are in the best situation possible in case you need to take a hit and your alliance mates are reinforcing you. And for that, you'd want to make sure that you have a duty general on your embassy. That's because, based on the understanding that I have right now, having a duty general on your embassy buffs reinforcing troops. Not just the troops that you send out for reinforcements, but also the troops that people send to you as reinforcements. That's my understanding right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would highly advise that if you're anticipating any kind of defensive situation where you might need reinforcements, put a duty general on your embassy. Then, when we're talking about defending, another thing that you need to make sure that you do is that you clear your top line. Clear your top line completely of all the resources that you have in there. If you are a big keep and there is little chance of you getting one-shot zeroed, then this might not be a big issue for you. But if you're a smaller player, if you're planning on ghosting during SVS, or there is a chance that you could get one-shot killed, you would want to make sure that you clear your top line of all resources before you go into SVS. So make sure you have a plan to get that cleared before SVS starts, whether you're going to be using them for buildings or building troops or whatever. Just get that line cleared. Now, one thing that is very important for SVS and for getting wings is that you need to make sure that you have done as much as you can on the research for Light of Server War. Light of Server War reduces the amount of source of life that you need to revive your troops when they get wounded or killed during SVS. This is important for both attacking and defending, and if you haven't fully completed this research yet, you want to make sure that you push this as far as you can before the time for SVS comes. There are several blocks of research that you can do under the medical aid tab. There's this first one here. There's another one down here, Advanced Light of Server War. If you come all the way down, there's the Super Light of Server War. If you come to your champions and you have Elizabeth or Dolcina, not quite sure how to pronounce it, but if you have this champion and you have Elizabeth, they have skills that help you with Server War as well. So if you can buff those up, you'd want to do those as well. And then finally, with the new updates that came out, if you have access to the Defense Advanced tab and you come down here, right here, there is more research that you can do for server war. So, depending on what you have available and how far you have gone with some of these things, you'd want to push them as much as you can so that it saves you when it comes to server war. So, that's it for the points on attacking and defending. If you're finding the information that we're going through helpful so far, it'll be great if you can give the video a like. Thank you. All right, the next thing that we need to talk about, items. The items that you need to have for SvS and for getting wings. And this part is quite important because some of these items are very crucial for SvS. The first things that we're going to talk about regarding healing. And when it comes to healing, what are we primarily talking about? Source of life. You'd want to try your best to stash up as much source of life as you possibly can. If you're a regular coiner, you will have quite a few stashed up already. If you've been saving up over time, someone like me, you will have quite a few saved up as well. You can get some from Vikings. You can also get some from various events. If we go to Super Refining here, for example, and you come to the redeem section, some of these events, you have source of life as an item that you can redeem. Now, the amount of source of life that you need to have on hand will significantly vary depending on the size of your keep. But to be on the safe side, I would recommend that you have a minimum of about 2,000 to 3,000 source of life on hand. From my experience so far, having that amount of source of life will take care of quite a bit of the damage that you will get during SvS. Of course, if you're a bigger keep and you take heavy hits, you might need more than that, but work with that as a rough number of source of life that you should have at a minimum. The next items that you want to have when it comes to healing are speed ups and resources. Speed ups are, of course, particularly important for healing. For your resources, like I said, your top line should be cleared. But if you tap on the top line, what you'd want is to have quite a few of these resource boxes saved up, enough for you to do healing. Now, one thing I'd want to address is that you might probably have heard of situations where players are filling up their hospital with low-level troops, T1s and T2s before SvS. What that does is that it fills up your hospital so that you do not end up needing to use resources and speed ups for your healing. When it comes to SvS, if your hospital is filled up, all the troops that you get that are wounded will need to be revived using source of life. This tactic is particularly helpful for players that have tons and tons of source of life. It saves them from needing to use resources and speed ups. However, if you do not have a lot of source of life, then this isn't really a tactic for you to do. And I say that for two reasons. One is that, of course, you don't have enough source of life. That's the main thing. But then two, when it comes to SvS, troops that need to be revived with source of life, you have a time limit of 3 days to revive those troops. But the troops that are in your hospital, there is no time limit to revive those. So even after SvS is done, those troops will still be in your hospital and you can revive them at your convenience when you have the resources and the speed ups. So that is another reason why you might want to make sure that your hospital is free when you are doing SvS. Yes, it will cost you speed ups. Yes, it will cost you resources to heal those troops. But where you might not have enough source of life, that is the better alternative than filling up your hospital. Okay, so that covers healing. The next items that you want to make sure that you have, march speed ups. March speed ups are very valuable items to have during SvS. Why? Because you need to attack quick. You can't be in SvS watching the seconds tick down as your march is slowly crawling towards your target. You need to speed those things up. You need to attack quickly. So, having march speeds on hand will be very helpful for you. Try to get a decent stash of march speed ups before you get into SvS. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. If you have anywhere, let's say 50 march speed ups and above, I think that will be quite sufficient depending on the amount of attacking that you're doing. The next items that you'd want to have a bit of when it comes to SvS are march size buffs. Yes, depending on how you play your game, you would want to have a few march size buffs ready for you to do your attacking. Again, depending on the size of your keep, this might not be something for you to particularly worry about, but for some players, someone like myself, whenever I am attacking, I always use a march size buff. That's just the style that I play. So if you play a similar style, you would want to make sure that you have a few of these buffs on hand before you get into SvS, so you have no problems with attacking. In addition, if you set your march presets with march size buffs, you will need these buffs anytime you attack. Otherwise, your march presets will get completely messed up. The next items that we're going to talk about, and this one is very important: teleports. Yes, folks, you need to move around during SvS. And for you to move around, you need ports. You need teleports. No way to go around it. So you'd want to make sure that you have a good stash of teleports on hand before you get into SvS. If you don't have ports on hand, it is possible for you to trade something with other players so that you make sure that you have enough ports before SvS comes. Now, in the event that you don't have enough ports, it's going to cost you. Every time you teleport in SvS will cost you 2,000 gems. And as you can imagine, your gem bill can rack up pretty quickly. That's another incentive for you to try to get enough ports on hand. Now that we've covered that, the next item that you'd want to have quite a bit of when it comes to SvS are arrest warrants. Arrest warrants are an important item to have for finding targets that have run away during SvS, for finding players, for finding hives. So you want to make sure that you have a few of these on hand. Similarly, for teleports, if you're out of arrest warrants and you need to warrant a player and find a player, it will cost you 2,000 gems. So try to get as much of those arrest warrants stashed up as you can before you get into SvS. And then finally, the last items that you'd want to have on hand before you get into SvS: gems. I think from the talk that we've had so far, you could see that one coming. When all else fails you, having gems will save you out. When you have gems, you can buy Source of Life. It's expensive. When you have gems, you can buy teleports. It's expensive. And when you have gems, you can get arrest warrants, which are also expensive. But if you don't have those items, having gems will bail you out. So try to stash up as much gems as you can before SvS. Aside from what you stash up, I would recommend that you open up some gems on your account before you go into SvS. And I say this because that will bail you out in times of emergency. It is not ideal to be on the enemy server, you have seconds to bail out, and you run out of ports. When you have gems on hand, you get the option to quickly use those gems and it will save you out. Also, I've had situations where I ran out of bubbles. I got back to my server and trying to quickly bubble and I don't have any truce agreements. There as well, you can use gems to bubble. Again, if you don't have the gems opened up, then Going into your inventory to open up gems, get them out, and then bubble is not ideal. So I would recommend that at the very least, when you go into SvS, have at least 5,000 gems open on your account. That should be enough to get you out of any kind of sticky situation that you find yourself in. Now that we've gone through those, the last thing that you need to prepare for SvS and getting wings is information. I believe it was the Art of War that said something like, know yourself and know your enemy. Forgive me, I'm not on top of my game with my quotes right now, but something like that. So you need to have information on the server that you're going up against. That is crucial. What kind of things are you looking for? You want to have the coordinates of their hives. You want to know where the alliances are, because that's how you're going to be able to look for targets and unbubbled keeps. Then you'd also want to have information on some of their big players. Okay? How big are they? How strong are the generals that they have? You'd also want to have information on whether your server has reached a truce agreement with the other server or not for the throne. One thing to keep in mind, particularly when you are trying to go for your wings, is that it is much easier for you to go for your wings when there's a throne truce in place. Because when the servers are fighting for the throne, the big players are going to get involved and there are going to be a lot of big points moving. It is much harder for you to get wings in that kind of situation. So if there's a throne truce in place, then you're pretty much good to go on that angle. If there isn't, and there's going to be a throne war, you might want to sit out that SvS. So that kind of information is important for you to have beforehand when you're preparing. Now, as it's getting closer to SvS, depending on your time zone, that might be the interval between Tuesday and Wednesday, you will get a mail like this, which basically says server war is coming. When you get this mail, this indicates that you now have access to look at the information of the server that you are facing. So if we exit here, come to Event Center, and then come all the way down to Server War, you can see it's blank. So this is the server that we're going to be facing on Friday when Server War starts. And if you come here to Ranking of Enemy Server, this is where you'll be able to see all the information on the enemy server. You can see things like their general ranking. If we tap on that, it shows you the ranking list of the top generals on their server. So, for example, this guy has got this Douglas, okay, 10.9 million power, and this is pretty much the strongest general on that server. So, in this kind of situation, depending on how big you are, yeah, maybe you might want to stay away from this dude, okay? If we come back and you come to Alliance Power Ranking, you can see the ranking of the alliances there. If we tap on this one, for example, come here, look at the players. You can pick any player on the alliance, tap on Locate Coordinates, find the player, and get the location of their hive. Once you find the hive or the alliance building, tap on it, add to bookmark, put on enemy, and that's saved. You have the coordinates for that alliance saved, and you can go there anytime. These are some of the things that you would have to do in preparation for your SvS and for getting wings. That information is actually very important. And then, of course, aside from the things that you find out for yourself, you can also talk to your alliance mates and ask them to help you out with coordinates or any other kind of information during SvS. Getting that information ready before you go in will make it a lot easier and more feasible for you to do well in SvS and for you to get your wings. So, I hope you found that helpful, and it makes things clearer on what you need to do to prepare for your SvS and for getting wings. I'll be bringing out more content on SvS and PvP. So if you haven't already, it'll be great for you to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss out on any of those content when they come out. The next video in this series will be talking about some of the essential things that you need to know for SvS when it's actually going on. So be sure to check that out. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.